Senro-Ret I. Here's an African here who set up the kingdom of Athens. Not only that, conquered into southern Russia, what is called Black Georgia today. I often wonder if that's why they call it Black Georgia, because of this African here in Senro-Ret of the 12th dynastic period. Senro-Ret I, who conquered into Europe at this particular time, and this huge colossal right here going back to the African origins of civilization. Now, Maspero, as my wife pointed out about, he's one of the top psychopathic races. Now keep in mind, the Cairo Museum, people come from all over the world to read this. But first of all, before I read this, let me show you this man right here named Maharpura. This is Maharpura right here, the 18th dynasty, giving praise to the great god Asuru, who the Greeks call Cyrus, sitting in his canopy, just like the Pope sits in his canopy, right? This is where they got the concept of the canopy from. But everything to deny you your history, this is what Maspero says about Maharpura. Let's read it right here. It says right here that Maharpura suggested that, Maspero suggested that Maharpura may have been the son of Thutmosis IV and a negress. There were no negresses 3,000 years ago. At any rate, on a copy of the Book of the Dead found in a tomb and now exhibited on the wall of this room, Maharpura is depicted with his face black instead of the normal red. They were also the normal black. A detailed examination of his mummy, which showed that he died at about 20 years of age, also showed that he was negroid, but not actually a Negro.
How did you do that?
Now this is psychopathic racism at its best. So Maspero made it a point to make sure that he would plant in all people's mind, he's negroid, but not actually a Negro. What is a negroid, but not actually a Negro? That's like saying he's Caucasoid, but not actually a Caucasian. Everything to deny the African story that's told right here in the African Nile Valley. Negroid, but not actually a Negro. So I want to point this out to show you the forces that we're up against, the forces that we're fighting. As I said before, many years I've come here, and Amenhotep III that you see right here was in the front, along with all the other Middle Kingdom pharaohs. And I came a year ago and I noticed that he was missing. I didn't know where he was at. And it wasn't until I came back, after searching throughout all the museum, I find him in the back corner. In this back corner with pieces that you see are broken up. He is a major pharaoh of the 12th dynastic period. A time of high literature, a time that it was known as the second golden age of Kemet. This is a brother who took and built the pyramids in Hawara. This is the brother who made the black capstone put on top of this pyramid that you just saw. But why is he in the back corner? But you're going to see Nefret and Rahotep, those two figures. Once you see them, you'll recognize them because you see them in all the books in America. That's who they show you, who were irrelevant, who were not pharaohs, who did not build major sites and so forth, and one even questioned if they had anything to do with this. But we got to question, why is Amenhotep III all the way in the back room, in the back corner for no one to see him, where he's been systematically moved out of the way? And I'm saying that this brother built his pyramid, like I said, in the area of Hawara. He's known as building the labyrinth, which is a very elaborate structure. Many rooms were in this labyrinth. So all the things that he did, but the racism of the Western world, this is where we have Amenhotep III. But you see his nose had been knocked off. This is what we're saying. Like I said before, there's no one prototype that defines an African facial characteristic. Look among us, we have all types of facial characteristics, nose structure, and even color. This is what made us truly the people who we are, the mothers and fathers of the planet Earth. But systematically, the ones that got wide nose, thick lips, have been systematically trying to erase it from the public's eye. So now we see Amenhotep III is in the back corner with other relics, and we have to come back in the back corner. And when we get around to the other side, I'm going to show you where he once stood at. So we have to understand that there's a serious psychological, intellectual war going on. And it's a serious war this just as vicious as having our children in the classroom where the psychological war takes place, especially when that educational institution is controlled by someone who does, or other people who doesn't have the best interests of our children nor our people at heart. So come on over here, Joseph. Listen, yeah, we've been doing this. Let Joseph come over here for a minute. Here's Amenemhat III living right here today, Brother Ken Joseph. Look at Ken Joseph here and look at Amenemhat III. Go ahead, hold your head up high, brother. No, look at us. We know.
All right, okay.
Now you can get your shots in right now. Brother gonna charge you for that shot too. Now you can see the gene is still passing on.
Yes.
We got to take Joseph down to Hawara one day and see that pyramid as well. The first thing that you'll see on Egypt, many of you have seen Rahotep and Nefret. Rahotep was not a king. Nefret was not a queen. They did not hold the throne in ancient times. But it seems as though they are in all of the books in Egypt. It's the opening of the page. Now keep in mind that African people are many, many colors. I've traveled throughout the African continent. There are many, many shades of color of African people. But the point that I want to specifically point out here is the fact that Nefret and Rahotep are the ones who stand out in all the books. So when you get the books, they have selectively gone through here and have, as we know in America, a thing called passing. So they have systematically passed certain colossal pieces and so forth and artifacts. So Rahotep and Nefret are the ones who stand out in all the books, but when I showed you Amenemhat III, who should be standing right here because he was a pharaoh on the king, on the throne, who made the world's oldest road, built a pyramid in Hawara. They were not pyramid builders. So I want to point that out to show you that when you pick up a book, even when you go upstairs on your way out and you may pick up a book or just weave through it, the first thing you'll see is Rahotep and Nefret. And you will not see some of the other African pharaohs that have been systematically taken out of the Cairo Museum. I remember back in 1985, he's no longer in the Cairo Museum. You see? He was there in 1985, but he's no longer here today.
Do we know where he's at?
No, I haven't found him yet. But I'm saying how Europeans systematically design Egyptology for people when they open up books to give you the impression that this is a white civilization. So you have to understand how the corruption, how Europeans are systematically trying to guide the minds of the people by putting images and representations of people there in front of us to make us think that this is the only way they looked. And that was not the case, and that's what I'm trying to put emphasis on here.